Romantic Writing and Beethoven Citing. I am, as always, your host, Christopher Paul Dugdale, MEDMA. We are Duncanville High School in these United States, and today is January 19th, 2021. And on this date in history, on Friday, on the 15th, in 1929, Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was born. If he were alive today, he would be 92. Old, but still kicking. Sorry, he's not here. Yeah. The 19th century is really a coming together of European cultures. One of the things that brought a lot of people together was the same language that everyone had spoken, and also you have a lot of commonalities with culture. Now, if you're looking at the map there, you can see the Germanic influence on England, the Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, and Lithuania there as well. Okay, and part of Germany is also Austria there. But you have a lot of these commonalities, and these are things that really bring people together. Now, it does cause some divisions in Spain, and the people that speak Catalan versus Castellano Spanish, the Catalanese, actually I'm not sure if that's what they're called, but I'm going with that. They actually had, or they fought for independence really over the last 150 to 200 years on and off. But there's this real desire of people to unite with common people. And this is a whole sense behind nationalism, that people are proud to be, who they are, and their similar origins kind of brings all of that together. This is going to unite both Germany and Italy by the end of the century, but it's going to cause a lot of problems in Austria-Hungary, where they kind of forced together about 25 different peoples, and this is during a time where everyone really wants to have their own identity and their own cultures. Now, Romanticism, okay? This is something that dominates all phases of culture at this time. This is literature, music, and the arts. It's not the romantic love that we think of, but more the solitude and the fighting to overcome. Okay, and it combines several different aspects. You have emotion, which emphasizes feeling and passion as a source of knowledge and creativity. You have intuition, how the mind's eye reveals the world's truth. Okay, nature. Okay. Nature drew inspiration from mysteries and the power of nature. Okay, nationalism, again, pushing for all these things that kind of bind us together. Religion, this is focusing on mysticism and emotion, so kind of pushing beyond Christianity into some of the other popular beliefs of the time. And then the unique individual. This is really kind of the foundation of history, and where for a long time it's been the study of great people in the past instead of just the events that are going on, and how great people helped frame the events that happened. So looking at people like Beethoven or Napoleon are examples of the types of individuals that this is looking for. Lord Byron was one of the better known poets of his time, and wrote a lot of really great works, and he was inspired to go and try and change the world as well, so he went to go and fight for Greek independence, and on his way to fight for Greek independence, he actually will die. Okay, now Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. He wrote a series of novels, and some of them were turned into plays. In Sorrows of a Young Werther, he writes about this really passionate young man who kills himself because of unrequited love. Now, Faust is another play that's written by Van Gogh, and in this play, or actually in this book, I know it better as a play and a movie and TV story, where the main character of this is a man by the name of Faust who sells his soul to the devil. And that theme's actually been used quite a bit in literature and television and even the movies over the years. Edgar Allan Poe, I know most people are probably familiar with The Raven, The Telltale Heart. He was not really a well-known poet in his lifetime until the end of his life, and then he got into some big rivalry with another poet in town, and the poet in town said, well, you don't want to read any stuff by Edgar Allan Poe. All he talks about is death and darkness, and, it's really depressing reading all of his stuff, and apparently that was what everyone was looking for, but so people rushed out and started to buy Edgar Allan Poe's works and actually commissioned him to write poems for them. And this actually is what made him famous. Otherwise, he would have been a very poorly known poet, and both in his lifetime and probably afterwards. It was just all the negative publicity did a lot of good for his career. Pierce Bysshe Shelley, his mother-in-law, by the way, was Mary Wollstonecraft, really kind of the mother of the modern women's movement. And he was married to Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. We'll get to her in just a minute. But he wrote about Prometheus Unbound. Okay, and this is a story of rebellions against social conventions, the kind of free love that was becoming popularized at the time, where you could basically sleep with whoever you wanted, whenever you wanted, without any type of consequences. And he was also a vegetarian. I don't really even know what to do with that part. I love meat, and meat's been good to me except for the heart disease. I don't know, maybe that's an argument against it. I don't know. So, anyway, his wife, Mary Shelley. Frankenstein's really an interesting look into basically modern people and technology, and the consequences of our creations. And there's this great point in Frankenstein whenever the monster, Frankenstein's the name of the doctor that creates him. It's not the name of the monster. The monster, though, finally confronts Frankenstein, and Frankenstein, tells him that he was a mistake. And, I don't know if you've ever looked at it this way, but, to Frankenstein, that he was really a god more than anything else. And for your creator to tell you that you're a mistake, and the psychological problems that he'll have as a result of that, is just, it's a little bit horrifying. William Wordsworth, another great poet, he glorified nature, and he believed that people and nature, or actually nature, could be the greatest educator for people in general. Thomas Carlyle. Okay, this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. He was a historian, and he writes history as a story of great men instead of just great events, kind of putting a face on all the events of history. It's a much more interesting way of looking at history than, just a lot of events. Sir Walter Scott, he wrote a lot of medieval history, and in his book Ivanhoe, okay, it's all one word, so don't think that it's Ivan's Hoe, it's Ivanhoe, okay? And this chronicles the conflicts between the Normans and the Saxons in England. And over, throughout the medieval period, eventually the Normans and Saxons will come together, okay? The Normans were people from France, and the Saxons, William of Normandy, the founder of England in 1066, was French, and he was the one who kind of helped lay the foundation for the British Empire. For those of you who are still alive in 45 years, there will be a great celebration in England then, where you'll be celebrating 1,000 years of English history. I hope to be there if I'm alive, and if I'm dead, well then I guess I won't have any plans. So feel free to come on for dinner. I won't be anywhere. Francois René de Chateaubriand, he writes The Genius of Christianity, and this glorifies these mystical beliefs and the pull of religious faith, and basically the connection with both of those with the beauties of nature. Okay, and a lot of people during this time period are really going to look to nature for a lot of answers and for direction as well. So here's yet another example. Eugene de la Croix. Okay, now we're moving into the painters and artists of this time period. He worked with really large canvases, so most of the time works of art were done on much smaller canvases. They were more affordable, and so people were more ready to paint on smaller canvases. But he made much larger works of art. And this is the death of Sardanapalus. Okay, and here he is surrounded by enemy troops. Apparently, he has some type of orgy going on whenever everyone comes in. There's very little hope of survival, and you have this very decadent Assyrian king, Sardanapalus, and he orders that all of his the women in his harem and his prized horses go to their death with him. Since he's going to die, everyone else is going to die also. If I remember something a little bit more about the story, he also took all of his servants with him as well. So, I guess all that money you put into your 401k plan all those years was just kind of a massive waste whenever, you die as a result of your king being killed. But they might have been killed by the invader, and most likely the women would have become parts of his harem then. So, anyway, this isn't a very hopeful piece of art here. Caspar David Friedrich. Okay, so he does a lot of paintings of solitary figures confronting the immensity of nature. Okay, you see this man right here wander above the sea of fog. Okay, and this is people kind of longing for infinity, but a lot of images of people in the face of storms and mountains. Those were a lot of his contributions, where a little bit of a shot of conquest, a little bit of a shot of exploration, just kind of finding something greater than themselves in nature. Okay, Theodore Jericho. Okay, he paints this raft of Medusa. Okay, and for those of you who aren't familiar with who Medusa was someone who had snakes for hair, and you couldn't look upon her, otherwise you would turn to stone. So she was really a hard opponent, and it was really hard to get a second date with her too. My parents wouldn't have wanted me to date her, because whenever I'm around her, I'm always stoned, and they just don't approve of that. So there, once again, another person who's fascinated with nature and the fact that the monarchy was so distant, not a part of the lives of any of the people, and just completely uncaring and unemotional about anyone. J.M.W. Turner. Okay. He uses vivid colors and atmospheric effects to kind of show the untapped power of nature. In many ways, his looks a lot like Impressionism because you don't have a clear view of everything. Instead, you just kind of have the outline of shapes, but you can kind of tell what you're looking at in this picture here, from the bridge on the left to the bridge that's kind of the central part of the picture here, and the skies beyond this. This is actually called Rain, Steam, and Speed, and this gets rid of all of the specific details of the picture, and it shows the locomotive or train rushing towards whoever's looking at this. Okay? In a world before moving pictures and things like this, this might be something that gives you PTSD. During the Civil War, it was said that the people that were taking pictures of the battlefield, that many of the readers of the papers at the time would see the pictures and just pass out from them. Okay? They weren't like our generation now, where we've been playing Call of Duty and, you've killed hundreds and hundreds of people on the battlefield. You've died several times too. So we have much more of an irreverence for violence and gore and death than previous generations. Okay, so this Romantic movement of the first half of the 19th century is going to bring back a lot of medieval Gothic architecture. And if you look at the at Parliament and the Clock Tower, you can see a lot of the Gothic influence there. And now, to ruin something for you, many people talk about London Bridge. It's actually called the Tower Bridge over there. Not that with our horrible accents and, in some cases, horrible grammar, that we would be mistaken for English citizens. Calling it London Bridge is one of the biggest tells that you are not from Great Britain. Okay, so this was actually built. This structure was after the Houses of Parliament were burned down in the Big London Fire in 1834. And so they were replaced with a structure that you've probably seen on several televisions and movies over the years. So all of that's new. I went with my wife and daughter to London back in 2018, and we did not get to see this image of the clock tower. It was completely covered with scaffolding as they were trying to restore it. And that's one of the things that kind of sucks about going to Europe to see some of these great monuments, and they have to do this stupid thing called taking care of it so it doesn't fall apart, due to the ravages of time. So, anyway, what are you going to do? Okay, Ludwig van Beethoven. Okay, one of the best known classical, or develops of this classical style of music ever known. The father of the Romantic style. He actually went deaf in his 30s, and he had the legs removed from his piano so he could feel the vibrations of it. And he wrote several of his symphonies after he lost most of his hearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the Ninth Symphony, which is something that many of you are probably familiar with and you've heard in a lot of TV shows. I know whenever I was growing up, a lot of the classical music that I was familiar with was from watching cartoons. Bugs Bunny introduced me to the Flight of the Valkyries, the Marriage of Figaro, and even Beethoven. So if you stay with me here, I'm going to show you about 30 seconds of the Ninth Symphony. Oddly enough, the most memorable place I've ever heard this played was in Die Hard. Kind of sucks away some of my culture, doesn't it? Now, Hector Berlioz. He develops a musical, a program music where the drama parallels the music. So this is much more of, it's much more being used with plays and just the performance of symphonies. In his Symphonie Fantastique, this portrays a drug-induced imagination of witches gathering. So, this is nice, clean family fun. So give me just a moment and I'll play a section of this. You probably heard this in the background of a lot of horror movies. And the reason that they use a lot of this classical music is not only for the beauty and the drama from some of it, but it's also because you don't have to pay any copyright to use this music. You can have a symphony come in, record it, and you just have to pay for the time of the symphony. You're not paying for, using a current song. And that's something that becomes very expensive whenever you're having to pay copyright. But you've probably heard some of this in some of the horror movies over the last 50 years. So if you watched a horror movie, a lot of times they'll use music like this for that very reason. That and there's a lot of drama in this as well. This brings us to the end of yet another day. I thank you for your patience. I hope you enjoyed some of the musical numbers, some of the art that we discussed, and some of the writing of people that we've grown up studying and admiring. So everyone have a great day. Don't cocaine, don't AIDS, and be nice to cats. I don't know why. I'll see you all soon. Have a great night.